lot to get to here on the show. You're watching Philadelphia 76ers Now by Chat Sports. Chase Sr. here with you. And we begin with two surprising roster moves here for Philadelphia as the Sixers released two former second-round picks, Charles Bassey out of Western Kentucky, Isaiah Joe out of Arkansas. And this really coming as a surprise as we get closer and closer to the regular season, because I didn't expect Charles Bassey to have a lot of clock coming up this year and have a role on this team, but maybe go back and forth between the NBA level and the G League. But Isaiah Joe is a guy who I thought brought an important skill to this roster. As a young player, by the way, that's shooting the three ball. But because the Sixers roster is so deep and because they've added to that depth, that made these two young players expendable. This is what Doc Rivers had to say about the surprise releases of both of the players, and Bassey and Joe. It's just a lot of guards on this team. Furk didn't play a lot in the first half. Shake didn't play in the first half. Matisse didn't play in the first half. So there are a lot of guards on this team, and you just got to keep working and waiting your turn. It's a result of the logjam. We had to get our guys minutes. Michael Foster needed to play some minutes. We know what Charles Bassey does. We needed Michael to play some as well. And if you look at this from the grand scheme of things, right, when a player is selected on draft night, you always have high hopes for them. You're always taking the half-glass-full approach. Okay, how can that player benefit my team, our basketball team? How can they progress and turn into these really good prospects? But there are also some negatives to those picks. And for Bassey and Joe, that's why they slid to the second round. Bassey can go up and down, be a Jekyll and Hyde player. And for Isaiah Joe, when he did get NBA minutes, he wasn't really consistent with doing that one skill that he has, that's shooting the basketball. So it's always disappointing when draft picks don't work out. Obviously, it's more so disappointing when a first-round pick doesn't work out. Hello, Jahlil Okafor. Hello, Markelle Fultz. This, nothing like that to that magnitude. But when you look at Isaiah Joe and what he was able to do, or lack thereof, 96 games played throughout his NBA career since being that second-round pick a couple of years ago, he didn't take advantage of his opportunities. And honestly, throughout the NBA Summer League, I was expecting a little bit more. I'm not sure that at that point he was feeling the heat. He probably thought that his roster spot was safe, but your roster spot really never safe in the NBA. As for Charles Bassey, very, very limited sample size, 3 points per game last year, 2.7 rebounds, shot sub 64% from the floor, less than a block per game. I will say this about Isaiah Joe, and given the way that basketball is played nowadays, I think if he goes somewhere else, maybe to a bad team, preferably for him, so that he gets more minutes, he can end up being a pretty solid player because, again, he can shoot the three ball. Other news items, that I want to get to following that preseason dub against the Charlotte Hornets, as Philadelphia 4-0, and they've looked good. Yes, it's the preseason, but they've looked really good. Different players stepping in and night out. James Harden last night, as we've been talking about a lot here on the show, and then Tyrese Maxey prior to that in previous games. But how about Montrezl Harrell? Looks as though he is really going to have a serious role on this team, so much so that might cost Paul Reed some time. And Doc Rivers has never been a big Paul Reed guy. I like Paul Reed more than Doc Rivers. I think you can use a guy who's active, who can block shots, who can just give you that energy level. But Montrezl Harrell also has that. He has that energy level, and that energy can be contagious. And let's be real. At this point of his career, he's the much better player as compared to Paul Reed. So while some people might be high on B-Ball Paul and they want to see him play a little bit more, look, Montrezl Harrell is the better player, and you got to play the better player at the end of the day. And that's what leaves no room for Bassey, by the way, is because you have Harrell, you have Reed, and Bassey is the odd man out. So what do you think? What do you think about the Sixers cutting Reed and Bassey? It should be Joe and Bassey. Give me an R for regret or an N for not much of a regret there. Let me know right now in the comment section. And as you venture down there, make sure you hit that red subscribe button. The season, this is crazy to think about and say, is just days away. News and rumors all year long, whether it's the offseason or in-season. We got you covered with the most interactive and informative Sixers coverage. So join the party. Let's get the 10K subs and hit that red sub button. Do want to round out with this. So Joel Embiid as well as James Harden, they look ready to go, man. And they look really good in that 99-94 victory over Charlotte in the preseason. You take a gander at what both players did. I'm most pleased with what James Harden did, especially the three-pointers. Look, he had a dribble pull-up, a little catch and shoot. Like, if he can do that consistently, That's how James Harden can kind of extend his career on the offensive end if he does lack that step, which it seems as though, that's crept up on him. 17 points last night, 6 of 15 from the floor, of course, got into the lane, had this nice little mid-range jumper showing off, 4 of 8 from 3. He's going to have to duplicate that, be a little bit more consistent than he was last year. It's a good sign nonetheless. And then Joel Embiid, this guy always ready to rock. 19 points, 6 boards, 8 of 17 from the field, 0 of 3 from 3, but the three-point shot, it'll come along for a guy who's just a stupid talent at that center spot. And let's talk about James Harden a little bit more. I think he's primed for a bounce-back year. And I'm not sure that he's going to have the most efficient offensive campaign. I'm not sure if he's going to be a 25 points per game guy. In fact, I don't think he is going to be. That's fine, though. With the way that the Sixers team is built, he doesn't need to be. If he's 20 points per game and he improves on the efficiency just a little bit and becomes a little bit better with the pull-up three, the catch and shoot, then that's what makes him a lot more dangerous. And he can just impact the game in a plethora of ways. So prime for a bounce-back year, and if he's averaging around that triple-double, he could make an All-NBA team. As for the Philadelphia 76ers schedule, it's coming up before we know it. We're recording this, October 13th. So the regular season, 5 days away. They tip it off October 18th against the Boston Celtics on the road at TD Garden. Then they come back home against the Milwaukee Bucks. So right away, you're taking on two of the top teams in the Eastern Conference. A very good early season litmus test and measuring stick games to see just how good Philadelphia can be. Yes, it's early, but it's good to begin with some tough opponents to see where the Sixers team is at. Then you get some cupcake games. San Antonio Spurs, the Indiana Pacers, both going to be two of the worst teams in the NBA probably, and then the Toronto Raptors, always a feisty squad. And the preseason is over, so it is time for some real action. It's time to nut up, for the lack of a better term, to see just how good this Sixers team can be, to see if they can make it past the second round of the playoffs for the first time going all the way back to 2001. The Sixers in years past, they've talked a big game. They've won more than 50 games in consecutive seasons. They've looked like the real deal, right? But now that the regular season is here, your payroll is extremely high. You have a couple of guys on max contracts. You make win-now moves by bringing in P.J. Tucker and Montrezl Harrell. It's time to officially make a deep run in the playoffs and maximize Joel Embiid's prime and see if Tyrese Maxey can take that next step as well. So the over-under for the Sixers, 49.5 games. Over, under. We're going to set it for you. What do you think? O for over, U for under. Let us know right now in the comment section. Storylines to watch as we begin to round out the show. James Harden's resurgence. Can it happen? And if it does, it makes the Sixers an even more dangerous team. Montrezl Harrell's integration into the lineup. Looks as though this guy is going to give this team really good and active backup minutes. In the playoffs, can be a little bit of a liability. Shooting free throws, lack of shooting overall, and defensively. But the activity level, always there. That's important throughout the course of an 82-game schedule. Tyrese Maxey's ascendance. Is he going to take yet another step? Early preseason indications, he might be able to do that. Joel Embiid's race for MVP. He has admitted that maybe that's not an award that he's ever going to win, and maybe he should focus less on it, but he's going to be in that conversation if he stays healthy. And then breaking the Eastern Conference Finals curse. Can you finally get there? Can you finally break through the second round? It's been fun to watch high-level playoff basketball. It's been fun to watch some of these really entertaining first-round series. But can you finally break through in that second round to make it into the Final Four? Because this city would be popping. Look at how the city's popping right now. Philadelphia Phillies in the playoffs. Yes, they're 1-1 with the Atlanta Braves after, kind of an unfortunate loss against the Braves in Game 2. Rhys Hoskins got to keep that ball in front of you. But look, at the end of the day, you split in Atlanta. The Eagles are 5-0. It's Cowboys week. And the Sixers, they're primed to have a big year. Flyers, kind of fraudulent right now. Like to hire a John Tortorella, but this city is jumping. This city has juice when these teams are playing really well, and the Sixers have an opportunity to continue that momentum in the Philadelphia sports scene. Which storyline are you looking forward to the most in this Sixers season with it right around the corner? Let me know right now. Join the conversation in the comment section. As always, appreciate all of you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time here on 76ers Now.